And joining me now live via Skype are Jim and Belinda Karahalios. Hello. Thanks for taking the time to be with us today.
Hi, Ezra. Great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Well, my
Thanks, Ezra.
pleasure. I watched your mutual interview. I guess you sort of interviewed each other over the Thanksgiving long weekend. And I thought it's interesting, but I thought there was also a lot of news in it. The idea of creating a new explicitly conservative political party in Ontario is news, but it's much more powerful news if that party starts off with an actual elected representative. And Belinda, that's your plan, I take it, is to be the first MPP in the new Blue Party.
Yes, that's correct. Currently, Ezra, there is no party in the Ontario legislature that is defending the taxpayer, defending places of worship, defending small businesses, none promoting or protecting freedoms or democracy or fighting political corruption. And that's what the new Blue Party stands for.
So if I understand from your video yesterday, you have the name pre-approved by Elections Ontario, so they won't strike out that name later as being too close to another party or confusing. So you have to go through the effort of getting, I think, 1,000 electors to sign a petition saying, yes, this is a new party. Now, Jim, you're pretty good at the emails and the websites. I can't imagine that getting 1,000 signatures going to be hard for you. Is that something you can do online, or does it have to be people signing by hand a petition or something?
Well, every time you do something like this, Ezra, it's a new challenge. We should be able to get 1,000. It doesn't have to come from a certain number of ridings. And as far as we know, it could be physical form or scan. There's also the option, if there's a snap election, we run 3 candidates, we get registered, or we work with another existing party to do some kind of a merger. We've already had petitions coming in since last night. Pleasantly surprised, caught us off guard. They're coming in. We haven't had a chance to count and see how many we've received. But there's a lot of support across Ontario for a party that represents the values that Belinda discussed, and a party that doesn't agree with all the other establishment parties on every major policy issue.
Now, Belinda, I know your former caucus colleague, the both of you are on the outs now, Randy Hillier. I very much appreciate his principled take on things. It didn't surprise me one bit when he was given the boot by Doug Ford. He's a bit of a dissident in his own way, like you guys are. Have you had any communications with him that you're at liberty to describe? Because one MPP in a new party is something, but you have 2, all of a sudden, you're a bit of a thing. You can have caucus meetings. You maybe one day might even get some sort of a budget from the Speaker's office. I don't know, maybe you sit next to each other in the provincial parliament. Have you talked to Randy at all, or at least are you able to tell us if you have?
So in order to get any type of benefit in the legislature, you do need to have 12 people. So if Randy were to join, we would be another 10 people away from that. But as far as I know, he's still part of his PC board. I don't know if his intention is to run again, but, always open to conversations.
Yeah, we support Randy, and he's been through a hard go with this Ford government. He was a loyal PC caucus member for 14 years, fighting, some of the underhanded things that we saw under the prior leader. Got the turf very early on under Ford, under bogus allegations from Ford's backroom boys, and so we support him. So if he makes the announcement he wants to run again, even as an independent, Ezra, we would support him. It'd be great to have him on side and have Belinda and him as 2 MPPs as part of the same party in a united front.
Mm-hmm. Now, Jim, we've been following you for some time now, most recently in your campaign to become the leader of the federal Conservatives. That ended when the party disqualified you, banned you, fined you in a closed-door hearing. We objected to that, just like we objected to the other candidate, de Carey from Quebec, being thrown out. My point of view is, in a Democratic Party, let the members decide. But that is how your fate ended there. And you had similar internal battles with Ontario's PC party under its former leader, Patrick Brown. I think it's good to be a dissident. I regard myself as a dissident, but are you a builder also? And I remember I asked you a question to this effect when you ran for the federal Conservatives. You're a critic, which we need. We don't have enough of. You're you bring a focus to shortcomings. But are you a builder also? Can this be more than just a party of the people Doug Ford kicks out?
Belinda and I are builders, Ezra, and you'll know that it's largely the same people in the back in the federal Conservative and the Ontario PC party when it comes to internal party races. If we weren't builders, Ezra, we wouldn't be in this position. If we were running and finishing last, whether it was Belinda's nomination, me running at a PC convention, or in the federal leadership, they'd ignore us. So it's exactly the fact that we're not just critics. We were asking for the PC party to abide by their constitution, their processes. They're the ones that are offside and going rogue with just basic democratic things that they promised the members. And we were able to build movements and become a threat, and they went after us. If we weren't builders offering solutions, they would just leave us alone and ignore us. And if we weren't builders, Ezra, in the 2018 PC leadership race, all 4 candidates wouldn't have agreed with axe the carbon tax, take back our PC party, cleaning up the party.
Mm-hmm. All right, fair answer. Hey, Belinda, I presume that you would be the founding leader of the party. Is that correct? And would there be a party convention where that would be formalized? Would you just sort of start off as the founding leader? Would there be a leadership contest? How would that go?
So the news that was released less than 24 hours ago. So we're still kind of, we've got to submit the signatures once we get them. So that hasn't been discussed yet, but that will be coming.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a team helping us, Ezra, in the back. And part of the thing we didn't cover in the video is Belinda tasked me. She came up with a name and she said, Jim, go and figure out if Elections Ontario will let us use this name.
Yeah.
And they caught us off guard Friday end of day. Pleasantly, we're not complaining about it. We thought it would take 5-6 weeks to get a yay or nay or some suggestions. And they sent it back Friday, put it up on the website on Elections Ontario, so it was public.
Yes.
So we felt like we needed to let people know before someone checked on their website what was going on.
Well, I'm guessing they don't have a lot going on these days at Elections Ontario.
Well, they do a good job. They do a good job.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. The federal counterparts apparently allowed 3,500 foreigners to vote in the last election that we know about. So
yeah, and voter fraud starts in internal party races and then it bleeds into general elections. So it's becoming a problem.
Yeah, I agree.
I know there's a number of Ontario Conservatives who are not thrilled with this lockdown. They might be agitated by Doug Ford for personal reasons or for particular issues, but the general approach to the lockdown, I think you look around the world and I think that it's not even a left-wing, right-wing divide. It's an authoritarian divide, big government authoritarian, reduce democracy, stay in the emergency state, keep issuing orders by fiat or governing by regulation. The United Kingdom and Australia's state of Victoria have to be the worst for that. But I sense a divide, and it's about 90% of the people on the authoritarian side and about 10% of the people on the liberty side. But I see the pendulum swinging back in some places like the UK. Do you know of any sitting Doug Ford MPPs who have expressed privately their concern with the way Doug Ford has just absolutely embraced the medical political state, the medical political industrial complex? Sure, Theresa Tam, sure, World Health Organization, we'll just hand you all the decisions that we used to make democratically. Is there anyone in Ford's caucus who says, I don't like the way this is going?
Yeah, so I have a good relationship with a lot of the PC caucus members still. And, a lot of them were frustrated with a lot of the flip-flops that occurred, so promises made in the 2018 election that were then broken after we all got our seats in government. And this was the breaking point for a lot of them. But I understand that there is a lot of fear. So there was a whole, all 72 sitting MPPs were appointed. They said it was acclaimed, but we know it's appointed. for the next election. So it's a carrot that's being dangled, right? So a lot of them, as much as they don't agree with it, unfortunately, there's no real dissent that's allowed, because as you saw with me, once you actually publicly speak out against something, you get the boot.
And wondering what the MPPs think or believe, Ezra, doesn't really matter anymore, because we're in a world now where they don't even have the right to speak out without getting turfed.
Yeah.
And so it's just about what the leader and a couple of his handlers think, and maybe a couple in cabinet, and everyone else, who cares what they think? And constituents across Ontario are left without democratic representation in that kind of system.
And that's what I have the most issue with, is the fact that at the end of the day, regardless of what party someone stands for, the member of provincial parliament is the voice for all of his or her constituents. And when you do not allow an MPP to speak on behalf of their constituents, you've silenced all of those people. So much for democracy, and I have a huge issue with that.
Now, I'm not as familiar with the smaller parties in Ontario as I should be, but if the other provinces that I know better are any guide, there's typically parties to the right that don't have a chance of electing a government, and usually don't have the chance of electing even a single seat. But in some ridings, they pick up 5, 10, 15% of the vote if they have a charismatic candidate. I'm thinking in some parts of BC, the Christian Heritage Party. I'm thinking actually provincially, the BC, they have the Provincial Conservative Party. In Alberta, it used to be split between the Wild Rose Party and the Alberta Alliance, etc. Are there other small parties in Ontario that might agree to be rolled up into the New Blue Party, given that you guys have the profile and at least one seat in the provincial parliament?
So we're happy to talk to, when you're building a party, you want to talk to as many people as possible. And if they share the values and the go forward, we're happy to talk to them. The trajectory of the PC party over not only the last two leaders, but really over the last 15, 20 years has resulted in Ontario with a number of small political parties, not just one or two. And, I think that that's a direct reflection of having a PC party that doesn't represent the activists and the voters on the ground who vote for it. And people want to do something, and they register political parties, and that's their only outlet, that's their only avenue. So there's quite a few parties out there. We don't know the people who lead those parties personally, with the exception of one or two, but we're happy to have those discussions, absolutely.
Well, I think this is very interesting. I think that for so long, conservative parties have taken conservative voters for granted simply by saying, well, where else are you going to go? I think this new party you are conceiving perhaps answers that question. It'll be interesting to me if Doug Ford tacks back to the right to nip you in the bud, or if he does the opposite, if he drives more people to you by contemptuously dealing with your issues.
Oh, he'll most definitely do that, Ezra. Even after Belinda started asking questions in the House the last 3-4 weeks, you saw him give some rhetoric in some of the press conferences, and Post Media came running to his defense for a 24-hour news cycle. Oh, he's back. Doug Ford's back. He's definitely going to do that. But Belinda's exposed so many flip-flops of the Doug Ford government that any conservative voter who buys his rhetoric after 2 years of what we've seen, fool me once, Ezra, but we got to look beyond the rhetoric and see at what he's actually doing. He's not Rob Ford. He's Doug Ford. He's an authoritarian, and he's not conservative, and he's not for democracy.
Doug Ford's liberal government.
All right. Well, listen, good to catch up with you too. Thanks for taking the time to be with us. We'll follow with great interest, and we'll see what our friend Randy Hillier does, another MPP who speaks his mind. We'll see if other conservative MPPs decide to leave the Doug Ford party and join you, or who else you attract on the grassroots side. Keep in touch with us.
Thanks, Ezra.
Thank you so much.
All right, there you have it. Jim and Belinda Karahalios, who announced over the weekend that they have pre-approval for the name of a new party in Ontario, and now they're going to try to build it. This video has been taken out from behind the Rebel News Plus paywall by Jim and Belinda Karahalios, who are in the process of forming a new Ontario political party. To learn more about the party, go to newblueontario.com.